everybody, this is Latin Salad and I am Fatima Herrera and
Dolores Mora Lolita saying hello and a big hug to everybody.
And we are super happy today because we have the great opportunity to interview Richard Stewart, the mayor of the City of Coquitlam, who, by the way, we found out he's very popular among residents of the city. Hello.
Hello.
Mayor Stewart.
Hello, how are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much for accepting to do this interview with us. It's very important, and actually we're asking to our audience to ask some questions to you. So we had a selection of questions, but there were too many, so we actually tried to just select the most important ones.
I'll just answer them quickly.
So
another thing is normally we never are reading. We always have everything, but because the questions are very precise, that's why we're reading this time.
This time, especially for you.
I wish my answers were written too then.
Okay, so go ahead, Lolita,
And
with the
how
first
old
one.
were you when you first realized you wanted to be involved in politics?
Oh, how old was I? I actually didn't realize I wanted to be involved in politics. I did a lot of work in government. I did a lot of work as a consultant for governments at the provincial and at the federal and at the local level in Canada and in other countries internationally as well. As a consultant, developing public policy, and it became a natural thing here in British Columbia. I ended up being asked several times to run, and I ran provincially. I got elected, and then I preferred the local level. I ended up as a councillor and now as mayor, and it allows you to really be involved in your own community at a level that you've never been before.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a short anecdote.
I'll tell you, one of the challenges we have is that I think residents, I'm not sure they understand exactly always what government does, and so we quite often get requests from the public for lots of different things. And so for one of them, for example, was a request that we pay for something, that the government, that the city pay for it instead of having the residents have to pay for it. And I had responded to this email, well, it's an interesting concept, but I don't know that it's something that we should ask the taxpayers to pay for. Mm-hmm. And the reply I got back was, well, I didn't ask for the taxpayers to pay for it, I want government to pay for it. And it really illustrated that I think sometimes people don't understand that our government, the city government or the provincial government, it is us. And my job is to do what residents ask me to do and to try to figure out how to fund it and how to make sure it gets done. And we have 8 great councillors that are working with us, and we try to do the best we can for our community.
Right. I have a question.
Sure.
Going back to the first time you were working as a mayor, the very first day, what are your memories? What comes to your mind? Were you nervous? Were you excited? What was it? Like, try to go back in time.
Okay, I was probably more nervous the first day I was elected to government back in 2001 or to the city council in 2005. In 2008, when I was elected as mayor, I had worked in City Hall for 3 years. There were some things I wanted to achieve. So the first day really was about talking to staff about how to achieve the things that I had laid out as things I wanted to achieve, and how to work together and how to make sure that we respected each other's positions, because if you don't respect the people you work with, and if they don't respect you, then it's hard to work together. And so we had to develop a really good relationship, and we have an excellent relationship with the staff here at City Hall.
Well, we realize really the good relationship you have all around the people here in Coquitlam. Okay, let's go forward for the questions that we have from Latin Salad audience. What is your opinion about the Kinder Morgan expansion in Colony Farm?
We don't like it. We don't want Colony Farm Park to be used for manufacturing facilities, for example. In this case, the pipeline would not be laid in Colony Farm, it would actually be laid somewhere else. But they were talking about building it in the park, using the park to build the line and then moving it into its position. We didn't think that was an appropriate use. We now have an agreement, we think, from the proponent that, okay, we'll try to find another solution. They want to build it on the train tracks, and maybe that's a better solution. It is a challenge to make sure that all of these pieces of infrastructure that serve our residents are done as respectfully as possible, so that they don't affect, particularly don't affect our park system.
Good. So in the Multicultural Coquitlam, which are the main 3 cultures?
There's nine maybe.
No, which one would that be?
It's really, we are an amazingly lucky community.
Yes, yes, we are.
In that my background is Scottish Canadian on my father's side,
Right.
French Canadian on my mother's side. My wife is
You
Italian.
speak French, right?
Yes.
Yes.
My wife is Italian Canadian, and so European is probably half of our population, but it's split among all of the countries of
Right.
Europe. And then the other half is from Asia, largely,
Okay.
and from South America and from Africa, but there is no dominant second culture. We have European as if you call that one of the cultures, but there is no dominant culture.
Right.
We're not like Richmond, for example, or Surrey.
Mm-hmm.
We have about 5% of our population is from mainland China. About 5% is from Korea. About 5% is Iran.
Right.
About 5% is Latin America. About 5% is Philippines. And so we're really lucky in that we get to work together with all these cultures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Experiencing the different aspects or different
Absolutely.
cultures.
The United Nations is right here.
It is.
Yes, it is. It's true.
Yep.
It's true. So, does the city have programs for newcomers to help them to better integrate? And if they have one, tell me.
Yeah,
what
sure.
could be.
Well, one of the most important programs we have is a program called Welcome to Coquitlam. We do have, and it's an annual event where we welcome. It was actually originally set up because of some residents were coming here from Bhutan. The Bhutanese refugees were coming, and we wanted to welcome them. There was going to be hundreds of them, but we expanded the program to welcome everybody. We want people who are newly arrived, whether you're newly arrived from Toronto, or from Russia, or from Mexico, or from China, to come in and we'll explain how the various programs, how a bus, how to get a library card, how to.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That is because
Yes.
sometimes as a newcomer you have no idea where to start or what to do, and this program seems to be a fantastic idea to kind of direct people.
Absolutely. We want them to understand and celebrate everything that Coquitlam is. We want
Yes.
them to really experience the best of Coquitlam, and to do that they need the knowledge, and we want to make sure that they have access to the resources.
Right. We have another question. This one
Okay.
is regarding homelessness. What's the situation about homelessness in your city, and what programs are in place to help people to go back on their feet?
Yeah. Well, homelessness in British Columbia, in Canada, is largely a result of the challenges associated with addictions.
Yes.
And so we need to...
And mental
health.
issues,
Mental
yeah.
health and addictions. Now, that's one of the things where Coquitlam has... We have been host for 100 years to the largest mental health facilities in the province, and that's at Riverview Hospital. And Riverview Hospital downsized in the last 2 decades, but we want to see it regain prominence. We want to see it expand once again and start serving in a new way the population of Coquitlam and neighboring communities. We're building a homeless shelter right now. We've done a number of programs. The homeless shelter will be open this year. We've done a number of programs to try to help people back onto their feet. If it's that they don't have construction boots, we buy them construction boots. We try to make sure that as often as possible, and therefore we reduce the homeless population dramatically. We still have some homeless and we still have some addiction issues, and that's why we want Riverview to be there to help people that are challenged with mental illness and addictions to get back on their feet and be productive in society.
Right. That's great.
Yeah,
that is
it's
great.
a really good idea.
Okay, so we have another question. It's a little bit related. It's about
Where do
low-income
these
families.
questions come from?
Our audience. Low-income families.
Yes.
What about housing for low-income families? Is there housing available?
We've got a large amount of, we've actually expanded the amount of rental housing available in Coquitlam in the
Okay.
last few years, and we continue to expand it. It is a real challenge, though, across Greater Vancouver, obviously, where housing costs are the highest that they are anywhere in Canada. They're among the highest in the world. And so really focusing attention on how do we get smaller units built, how do we make sure that there's a wide range of affordable housing options for residents. And so our new zoning bylaws rules allow something called housing choices, where we can go into existing neighborhoods and the property owner could perhaps build a home on the lane, or a basement suite, or 2 houses, or 3 houses, or even 4 smaller houses, so that we end up with a wider range of choices. If everything is a a 60 by 120 lot with a big single-family home on it, and it costs $1 million, then we don't have affordable housing. We need a larger range of choices,
Right.
and we're putting that in place. We're also working with, of course, provincial government on trying to get some subsidies for families that are in more serious circumstances,
Right.
and have real affordability issues.
That's great.
Yes, and well, another one is, well, actually, I read that, I received it by mail. I'm pleased to know that this summer children can pay only $20, paying only $20, and they can go to any arts class or any sport class. That's really, really good,
It
because
is.
now we don't know that kids need to do more exercise.
Yes.
And in summer, sometimes parents are working and they...
Or probably some of them don't have the
So
money,
this
right?
really,
$20 is
yes. Are you going to do it, I mean, the City Hall is going to do it only this summer? Are you going to do it every vacation?
Well,
What is it
we're
like?
testing that drop-in program this summer. We're trying to figure out how to, a lot of families, when the children are off for the summer, the parents are still working.
Right.
And sometimes it's only one parent.
Exactly.
In that household. So how do we make it so that there's a choice, there's some physical activities, not
Right.
just sitting there on the
Yes.
phone.
Yeah.
Some physical activity that kids can participate in. So we, in addition to our wide range of bike trails and all kinds of other activities in our park system, we wanted to make sure that there were other things that they can do that were affordable. Last year we did it as a toonie. So a drop-in was a toonie to go swimming, for example, or
Right.
whatever. And this year we opted for a different program, which was you pay it once, and now you come the whole summer.
That's amazing.
And you know that you can enjoy all the activities that Coquitlam has, because there are a lot
Yes.
outside or even in the inside. I mean, you can choose.
Yes.
You can choose.
I hope other cities follow your program because it's amazing. I mean, for $20, as you said, you get those children like off the cell phone or the iPad or whatever.
Or out
The
of other
more-
kinds of trouble too.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. The principal one is to keep them away from trouble.
Yes.
That eventually will be more expensive.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's a great
So,
program.
yeah,
Congratulations for
for it,
that.
yeah. Okay, now with the new SkyTrain, we will have new challenges. Especially people are concerned about safety and how the city is going to handle that.
Well, one of the things we did right at the outset was we focused a lot of attention on designing. There's a couple of ways to fight crime. One of them is to fight crime by police, and you go back and you wait till someone is a criminal and then you fight them. Or the other way is to try to design your community so that crime doesn't happen. And we preferred that option. We've actually gone to great lengths to design, and at great expense, to design our SkyTrain network, and primarily the area around stations, to avoid crime, to make it so that it's a walkable and livable and exciting residential neighborhood,
Right.
a neighborhood that has coffee shops and things. Because crime doesn't happen around coffee shops. Crime doesn't happen where people are.
Right.
Crime happens where there's less isolated, or it's dark, or it's. So we've learned from other communities, because you go to when SkyTrain first arrived in New Westminster, there was crime in New Westminster, but it got focused around the station.
Yes.
Yes,
The other reality is that ours will be the first stations that were designed with the fare card. You can't get into our stations without a fare card.
Right.
So there's some of the criminal elements that used to use SkyTrain, that still do, in fact, today, use SkyTrain as a getaway vehicle.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, they won't be able to do that
No.
anymore, because they will be recorded.
Yeah.
You'll now know that 2 minutes after that crime happened, that person's card got used to go through to the SkyTrain station. So I really think that, combined with the work we're doing with police on this issue, we're going to have a much better system, and I'm not worried at all about the crime issues around our stations. I don't think they'll be any worse than they are today.
Okay, this one is regarding First Nations. Having Coquitlam a large First Nations population, how First Nations self-regulation work with the city regulations? How do they interact, or how can you explain that to the audience?
Well, in effect, what happens is our local band is independent. They are like another city. They're like a small town right there in our community. They have challenges too, and one of their challenges is they don't have any services. They don't have water, they don't have sewer, so they have to connect up to us.
Right.
And when they do, we sign a bilateral agreement to
Oh.
supply them water in return for inspecting their plumbing systems to make sure that our water won't be contaminated by their plumbing.
Correct.
That's one of the main reasons for a plumbing inspector, is to make sure dirty water doesn't end up in our plumbing system.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of agreements we can work out with the autonomous nations, the First Nations. We have a really good working relationship with the Coquitlam Band. The band chief was actually elected the same year I was elected as mayor, and his daughter was my daughter's friend in school. So,
Oh, really?
So we get along well,
Right.
and I think we can continue to explore the work that they want to achieve on their band lands, and have it complement the work that we're doing as a city to make it a better place for both of us.
Great.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, I have another question. With the new constructions, what are the rules to balance the green areas preservation at that construction?
Absolutely. Well, we're actually preserving more green space now, largely because of the development. One of our challenges in the Metro Vancouver is that we have mountains in the north, we have the Pacific Ocean on the west, we have the agricultural land on the east, and the south we have a very big army. The U.S. border, so we are boxed. We are boxed in, and yet Vancouver is the best place in the world to live. I believe the Greater Vancouver area will continue to attract people.
Right.
So we need to absorb 1 million people in the next 25 years, and we need to do it in a way that doesn't change our lifestyle and doesn't affect the livability. And that means growing up, not growing out, because we can't go up the mountain.
I think they are doing the same in Abbotsford, right?
Well, and so Abbotsford's got those challenges as well. That's how do you make it so that we don't continue to sprawl? How do we make it so that we don't build more and more single-family homes all the way up the valley?
Yeah.
And so our efforts now are focused on, we have one remaining what's called a green field, and that's Burke Mountain. It's an area where we're cutting trees to build houses. That's the last one actually that's going to be on this side of the river. We won't be building those anymore because we've drawn a hard line around construction. It's called the urban containment boundary, and that line we won't go past it. The sewage systems won't go past it. Nothing. So we have to start growing up,
Right.
and that means particularly around SkyTrain stations, high-rise towers, and other forms of multifamily buildings. When we build those, we actually get the developer to buy us parkland, so that because we want parkland in those spaces as well. So part of it is that the developer contributes to buying more land for
Right.
parks, that we can create green space in areas where there is no green space now. There are several areas of Coquitlam where there are no parks at all.
Right.
And we want to be able to buy up land, buying up houses
Yes.
and building parks, which is the reverse of what has traditionally happened.
Exactly.
So we're going to end up, I believe, with more parkland in 10 years. That's our goal, is to have much more parkland in 10 years than we have today.
I celebrate
Yeah.
that.
And
Yes, fantastic.
largely it's because we're going to need it as our population continues to grow.
Right.
I celebrated that.
Yes. Okay, so right now, what is your biggest concern for the city and how are you planning to solve it?
The biggest concern for the city is transportation.
Transportation.
We need to get our bus, a proper transit system all connected. We're lucky we finally achieved one of my biggest goals in getting elected was to break the log jam at the provincial level on the SkyTrain station, the SkyTrain. We'd been working for 20 years, well, my whole adult life, we've been working to try to get SkyTrain extended from New Westminster to Coquitlam. And every time they fight with government, we finally managed to find a solution, and I was really proud that we achieved that. So now we have SkyTrain under construction. It will be ready, complete in about a year. With that comes the requirement that we need all the buses to connect.
Yes.
Because without the buses, everyone will drive to the SkyTrain and there'll be no place
Exactly.
to park. So we need the buses, and we were hoping that the referendum would achieve that, would
Right.
help us build that. If it doesn't, if the referendum doesn't pass, then we have a whole lot of work to do, because I don't want to build more roads. I don't want us to pave most of the Lower Mainland in order to accommodate 600,000 more cars with 1 million people. We want them largely on transit when they can be, and those that can't be on transit will be on the roads, and the roads won't be as congested. So that is always going to be our biggest challenge, I
Yes.
think, is to make sure our transit system works properly.
Correct.
Well, the question is, I think we're almost at the end.
Okay.
And what are you most proud of the residents of Coquitlam?
The thing that always makes me proud is how the world has come here to call this home,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
world lives together here.
Yeah.
There's a little park across the street from City Hall, and when I leave here late at night sometimes in the summer, and it's still a little bit light, and you'll see a soccer game, a football game going on Spirit Square. And the children speak a dozen languages.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they're
Yes.
between 4 and 14, and they're playing soccer together, and they don't communicate in English. They're from around the world, and they're playing an international game right here. And we really get to, and Canada Day, our Canada Day celebration really is a celebration of Canada as we open our doors to the world, and we need to celebrate the fact that the world has come to Coquitlam, called it home, and works together to make it a better place.
I agree. Yes. Well, as Lolita said, we are almost at the end of the interview, but here we have a question for you because we understand you have extensive experience as a community volunteer. Please explain to the audience the importance of volunteering and how does the City of Coquitlam benefits from it?
Well, it's not so much the city doesn't benefit, the residents. It's about making sure that the residents get the best quality of life and that we all can work together.
Right.
Government is really us working together in a way that uses taxes quite often, but we don't have to use taxes quite often. We can actually build new parks, and we can keep our city clean, and we can have community groups doing all kinds of work, and we do that now. Later today I'm at a golf tournament to raise money for a volunteer activity. We do that, and so I encourage all of our residents to find a group that wants to work together, be it in your church or in your community group or whatever, and volunteer to make Coquitlam
Yes.
as good as
Yeah.
we can possibly make it, because it's not just for us, it's for our children. We're gonna build a society that we're all proud of.
And I think that people, when they volunteer, they always feel better about themselves, right? You are actually doing something for someone else, and you're not actually looking for the profit or the money. You're just doing it because it comes from your heart, and I think that's very important too.
And Canada and Coquitlam, they have a big culture of volunteering.
Yes.
So this is good.
No,
Yes.
in fact, we have some people adopt a street and they keep it clean. Some people adopt a park and they keep it clean. Some people work in the hospital or work in all kinds of ways with seniors, with children, to make us, but it makes us feel good ourselves.
Yeah.
So
We actually had one last question, but we
You
were
said the
not,
last one was
we,
one.
no, we were not expecting
have a
to
lot,
be sitting
but-
here in this amazing room with this art behind us. So we were not expecting that, and you have to please explain to us about this art. It's just outstanding.
Well, this art was, I was just elected mayor, and I was meeting with all of the principals of the high schools. And one of our high schools just up the road, Pine Tree Secondary, has a tremendous art program. And as I walked trying to find the principal's office, I kept walking past these big murals done by the students. And they were magnificent murals. And when I spoke to the principal, he put me in touch with the art teacher, and we decided on a program to fix this room. It was terrible, it was ugly, and it needed paint and everything. And the students made these.
It's just
The students
amazing.
made these from images taken from our first Canada Day celebration in 2009.
Wow.
We were cultural capital of Canada. That was our celebration year. And these images are of people from around the world, some of them historical. That was Millard. Father Millard was the one who was, Millardville was named after. One of our first mayors is up here. But most of them are of either Aboriginal or some of the various cultural groups that have come and made Coquitlam home and celebrated at that Canada Day celebration. And the students created these pieces of art, and they were mounted here. And this is my proudest
Yes.
Yeah.
piece of artwork. in
It's just
Coquitlam.
beautiful.
It's just
Well,
magnificent.
let me tell you, Fatima, the City Hall is very creative. Every Canada Day,
Yes.
they celebrate in a very interesting way. Last year, it was to pin wherever you are coming from. It was a map.
What country
Uh-huh,
you're
all
you're
around, and you need to pin where which part are you coming from? So the census, sorry, but they did a census in one day.
Yeah, we did, yep.
And it was very, very interesting.
Right.
And every year is something different. But I would like to keep that one because we are
Just growing.
just growing. So it will be nice to keep it that.
Like a tradition.
Like a tradition.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we do that at the Welcome to Coquitlam event. We make it so the people that come here, they show us where they're from.
Right.
And I have a tie that I quite often wear at that because it has flags from around the world, and I'll have little children coming up and poking at my tie. Oh, look, it's Korea.
That's
Look, it's Mexico. We really love to celebrate international realities of Coquitlam.
Well, okay, the last one, we promise. So we understand you are bilingual, fluent in French and English, but could you say a few words for the Latin community in your city? Like maybe a greeting?
Je souhaite la bienvenue à toute la communauté. No, I'll do it. I won't do it in French. I'll do it.
French. Any other language you know, go ahead.
Un saludo a todos los amigos de habla hispana. In Coquitlam, we truly recognize the world has come here, and thank you for joining us and being part of our community.
Oh, that's wonderful! Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. You are a very accessible person to talk to. Like, really, I'm so proud of Lolita that she's a resident of Coquitlam. I wish I were too, but
Yes.
You're not from Coquitlam?
no, I'm not. But she is.
Yeah.
Well, why did she invite you?
I might move here after this interview.
And I'm a very proud resident of Coquitlam.
Well,
yes.
I enjoy
we're proud
this
of you.
city a lot.
Yeah.
And normally when you enjoy is because somebody else or a lot of people is doing a Coquitlam a better place.
Yes.
And of course it's Palu.
Yeah, congratulations for your work and your staff and everyone that contributes for making this city such a nice place. And thank you, friends. This interview has been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Mayor Stewart.
Thank you. It's been my
A big hug for everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.